Hi guys, it's Jackie Clark here for Flying Unicorn with another installment of What Can You Do Wednesday. Today for What Can You Do Wednesday, we're going to go through what these marvelous little pots of color, primary elements from Dream in Color and Luminart can add to your projects. So I don't know if you can see on the video, but these little pots have a ton of sparkle to them. And they are pure artist pigments, so they are what you would put in paint to get color. Now if we just added a little bit of water and mixed it with some primary elements, you are going to be able to get color on your page, but once this dries, your color will wipe off to the touch. So if your project is something that may get touched now and again by someone, or especially if it's something that's going to be handled regularly, you are going to need to add a binder if you want to use it as a paint. And so this is Jacquard Gum Arabic, which is a binding medium or a type of glue. And so what you would do is just add a little bit of this into your mix. And then you will get a paint that will stick to your project and is not going to rub off. So as you can see, it thickens up the mixture a bit, and I've diluted my color a bit now because I've added more water and I've added the gum arabic, but you can always go back and just add some more primary elements if you want to achieve a deeper color. So there we go. Now as we leave these to dry, and then I'll be able to show you the difference, you can also mix these pigments with different media to get colored media. So I'm just going to clean off my craft mat here. So I've got two different mediums that I will mix with my primary elements. The first is gloss gel medium, and so it's going to give me a translucent or transparent finish. And the second is gesso. And so of course gesso dries opaque, and it is going to change the quality of our primary elements a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of primary elements powder to each of these and give them a mix, and then paint them onto the page. So as you can see, I started with about the same amount of pigment. However, because the gel medium is translucent, I get a much richer color than I do with the gesso. The white in the gesso really washes out the color. I can add some more to get a bit of a deeper color, but I'm still going to get a whitewashed effect. Once I've got this all mixed in, I'll show you one of the other differences. So though it will tint the gesso, if you can see here, you lose the shimmer from the mica. And so when I paint it on the page, I'm going to get an opaque color, and I'm going to lose all of that beautiful shine, which, if that's what you're going for, is fantastic. You just want to be aware ahead of time that it can happen. With the gel medium, I still keep the shimmer. And you can see as I spread it on, if I spread it really thin, I can get a transparent glaze, which is very much like a silk's. Whereas if I spread the gesso thin, I still get opaque coverage. Alright, so we'll let those guys dry too. Just give the craft mat a little clean. So some of the other things that you can do with primary elements that is very cool is, as long as you've put some kind of a binding element on your page, the primary elements will stick to it. So if I take one of my stamps, and this is one of the Prima doily stamps that's available in the Flying Unicorn store, and if I add some embossing ink to it, the embossing ink acts like a glue. So now if I come in with my primary elements and a dry brush, the pigment is going to stick to the embossing ink. And you can start to see the pattern emerging. And if I wanted to, I could apply different colors to different areas of the image as I went. Or what I like to do sometimes is just to apply a second color right over top. So I'm going to come in with a blue so that you can really see the contrast. And I can brush that in, and it is also going to stick where I've got my embossing ink. Now, because, as I mentioned, the primary elements does not have a binding agent in it, it will wipe off of the embossing ink onto my hands. So if you are wanting that image to be fixed, you need to put some kind of a binding agent on top, or a fixative on top. So a cheap at-home solution would be to use some hairspray, and that will fix it. Or if you are wanting to be able to add other media on top, you can get some some workable fixative that will allow you to spray over top and fix that image, and then continue to work on top with different colors. And it comes in an aerosol can. Alright, so another thing that we can do with the primary elements is to, again, ink up a stamp with embossing ink and make our impression. And this time I am going to add some embossing powder to the page. So I've just got Stampendous clear embossing enamel here. And I'm going to heat this up a little bit, and then I'm going to add in some of my primary elements. So I don't know if you can see, it's starting to bead up and melt there. So I'm going to come in and just sprinkle some primary elements on. And now if I go in and clean this off, you can see where the primary elements has become embedded in the embossing enamel. Alright, your primary elements can also be used to color metal, flowers, anything you want. Here's some that I used on a metal flower. On this side here I used just embossing ink, and if I rubbed it, it would come off. For this part here, I painted it first with Silk's acrylic, and then I rubbed the primary elements on top and applied a fixative, and so then the color will stay there. So I've gone in and I've heat set these so that I can show you the differences. So here's the primary elements just painted on with water, and if you notice when I wipe, it still comes off on my hand even after heat setting, but you can see the nice shimmer and shine in there. This is the primary elements mixed with the gum arabic, and if I rub, I don't get any color off on my finger, and lots of nice shimmer and shine in there. Here we have the primary elements mixed with the gesso, and you can see a little bit of shimmer that's come over from this image here, but when I brush it away within the gesso, you don't get any shimmer at all. It's a very flat color. Still a beautiful color, but very flat. And this is the primary elements mixed into the gloss medium, and again you can see lots of shimmer there. Here's the type of detail you get with the embossing ink. You can see the details of the doily really, really well, so you maintain a lot of detail. And there again is what you would get with the embossing powder. Now if you wanted more color coverage, what you could do is mix the primary elements in with your embossing powder before you put it on your stamped image, and you would get much more color transfer into the embossing powder. I completed this layout using Ritter's Home tailgate marked papers from the June kit of the month and primary elements. As you can see, the primary elements show up really nicely against the dark paper. Here I've stamped with embossing ink and brushed my primary elements over top. I've painted on my paper layers with them. I've used them with gel medium and stenciled on my page. I've colored in my canvas letters, and I've also splattered them across the page. Thank you so much for watching, and we can't wait to see what you do with your primary elements.